DJ Uiagalelei is going to visit Florida State. And this, for some people, was a little bit of an eyebrow raiser because they talk about DJU and the lack of success he had at Clemson, and then you see what he did at Oregon State, and like some people just aren't really sure how to feel about this potential fit. I think there's more than what meets the eye here to this whole conversation around DJU. Because, like I just said, the number one thing people are saying is, well, DJU in his time at Clemson didn't really go that great. DJU, he sort of underperformed there. DJU this, DJU that. Well, let's look at what the numbers tell us. The numbers tell us that the DJU-led offense at Clemson averaged right around 31 points a game in 2022 when he ran the show. Okay? This season, remember, you got rid of DJU. That was the problem for you, right, at Clemson. That was the issue. You got rid of him. You go to Cade Klubnik. It's going to be a better situation overall, a new OC. Clemson scored 26 points a game this season and had a worse record. Are we sure DJU was the problem? Well, he went to Oregon State, and they didn't necessarily light it up. Scored over 30 points a game. They were ranked near that top 10 for the majority of the season. Gave a college football playoff team in Washington all they could handle and then some. I think DJU to Florida State, if you're throwing the Clemson thing out there, I understand where you're coming from, but I just think there's a little bit more than what meets the eye when you talk about DJU and his time at Clemson. Based on how they did this past season, I have a hard time believing that he was the issue there. Did he have some blame? Of course, you're the quarterback of your football team. 100%, you have a ton of responsibility. But the numbers tell a different story there. They don't tell the whole story, but I think they give us a little bit of direction when it comes to DJU and the narrative around him when he was at Clemson. Now, I would also say this. Mike Norvell, being the head coach of Florida State, he had a fair amount of exposure to a guy like DJU when he was at Clemson. Andy Staples said this on our Transfer Portal show. He absolutely nailed it. If Mike Norvell has an opinion on DJU, I promise he's not just going off of a gut feel or a couple of games on tape he watched. Like, Mike Norvell has seen DJU up close and personal multiple times from nature of their time against each other in the ACC. Like, if Mike Norvell feels good about rolling with DJU enough to bring him on for a visit, like, okay, I think that should give us a little bit of a gauge for how he's viewed in the coaching world. Because Mike Norvell, like, say what you want about him, dude's had an offense that's operated at a high level the last 2 seasons. And a lot of people are ready to sell their Jordan Travis stock after his couple of years in Tallahassee. Yours truly being one of them. And we saw how he elevated and how he became a guy who was in the Heisman Trophy conversation for a while before he got injured there. So if I'm DJU, Florida State, I think, makes a ton of sense. Like, the track record of success with transfer portal players, we've said it a lot on here, but I think that has to be attractive for a guy like DJU who's looking for a new home right now. We say it a lot with certain positions. Like, if you want to play defensive line, you look pretty heavily at those SEC powers. Georgia, Bama, their track record of success in developing those guys and getting them to the NFL. You want to play wide receiver. You look pretty closely at Ohio State. Brian Hartline's the man. Just year after year, it feels like they have a first-round NFL draft pick ready to go play receiver for you. Well, I think on a much broader scale, if I'm a transfer portal guy, Florida State continues year in and year out to put those guys in position to be successful. It is, I would say, fairly rare for a transfer portal guy to go to Florida State and to just disappear off the face of the college football earth. I don't really see that much. What does that tell us? They're allowing these guys to come from different situations. They are acclimating them accordingly, and they're helping them to be successful. They are using the right tools to put them in the best position to succeed. Not everywhere is doing that. What are they doing specifically? I don't know. It's all in-house, but I would say the track record should speak for itself a little bit. You also have to imagine for DJU, this is a play to help yourself when it comes to your NFL draft stock. I think it's pretty straightforward. DJU wants to play in the NFL one day. I think his prospects are probably improved by nature of what he did last year at Oregon State. But if you go to Florida State and you ball out and you have a good year, I think it kind of erases that excuse that a lot of people would try and throw at DJU. I think it would stick a lot less. That would be well, it was the Pac-12. Well, it was Oregon State. Listen, for starters, the Pac-12 was awesome this year. I think the Pac-12 has a very real case to be the best conference in college football in the 2023 season by nature of their depth and by nature of the teams they had and the nature they competed at this year, Oregon State being one of them. So the shade of the Pac-12, not really warranted. They're going to catch a stray by nature of their reputation. I understand that. But you go back to the ACC and you sort of resurrect the issues that were present, the narratives that were there at Clemson, and you go ahead and prove to everybody like, hey, it wasn't me. I wasn't the issue. And if I was the issue, I've grown and developed and gotten better since then. It's Mike Norvell, too, offensive coach. Someone that you can play under and you feel good about having a strong gauge for where things are headed for you offensively. Because that was an issue, too, it sounds like. DJU, in an interview with The Athletic, said, hey, I wasn't crazy about some of the things we did offensively at Clemson. I don't think you'd have that same issue with a guy like Mike Norvell being an offensive-minded head coach. And also, just going back to the resume, his football team has averaged 35 points a game the last 2 seasons. That's sustained success. So DJU to Florida State, I think, would make a lot of sense. I think we got to stop acting like this guy just can't play football at all, like he's just somehow an individual that is a bust. Again, the offense at Clemson, over 30 points a game. Without him, about a touchdown worse than that. Oregon State's offense, much better with him. They averaged 30 points a game this year. So all that's to say, this was still a dude that was a 5-star out of high school, still a dude that played at a really high level, really high competition level in the state of California at St. John Bosco. I like the fit, and if Mike Norvell feels good about it, I say let's roll. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.